shift, bass hit, neck snap, true talk, no fluff, heat rise, act up, snap tight, step clean, eyes lock, scene mean, just Jackson guest. Feel that beat drop, chest pump, don't stop, just Jackson guest. Here comes fire, here comes heat, no retreat, on this beat, just Jackson guest. Shakalaka boom, shakalaka boom, 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 boom. Mind flip, spine stiff, word cut, gift shift, talk slick, move quick, clock tick, don't blink. Just Jackson, yeah. Boom, shakalaka boom, shakalaka boom. Just Jackson, yeah. Boom, shakalaka boom, shakalaka boom. More love with backbone, more safety, full grown, more respect when it's earned, more clients return, more stacks, more flow, more peace that we grow, more health in the grind, more wealth in the mind, more cheers from the crowd, more strong women loud, more worth that you feel, more power made real. Yeah, just Jackson, yes. Here comes fire, here comes heat, no retreat, on this beat, just Jackson, yes. Just Jackson, yes. Just boom, shakalaka boom, shakalaka boom. Boom, shakalaka boom, hey, boom, 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 shakalaka boom, hey, boom, 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 shakalaka boom. Boom, shakalaka boom, hey, boom, shakalaka boom, shakalaka boom, hey, boom, shakalaka boom, shakalaka boom. Boom, shakalaka boom, boom, shakalaka boom, shakalaka boom, hey, boom, shakalaka boom. Kick bounce, hi-hat, run, shoulders roll, sun up, baseline, waistline, heat rise, no decline. Just Jackson, guess. Boom, shakalaka, boom, 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 boom. More love with backbone, more sun, boom, boom, when it go, when the sun, don't run, with the turn, more stacks, more flow, more blast in the turn, more just don't feel, more shit. More stacks in the cloud, more strong, more loud, more worth that you feel, more power, they breathe.
Yeah, more drive, no style, more rise, stand tall, more force, no fear, more shit this year, yeah.
Just Jackson, yes.
Boom, shakalaka, boom, shakalaka, boom, shakalaka, boom, shakalaka, boom, shakalaka.
And here we go. How are you tonight? Oh, I'm so happy you're here because I got a lot to say tonight, and I got this mysterious kind of background here. So if you've been following along, this show is every single Monday night, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So some of y'all, it's the middle of your night. Some of it's earlier in the evening. Sometimes it's even Tuesday for people by the time they're watching this show. So I want to thank you for being here. Whether you're catching the replay, whether you're watching us live, we've got some exciting stuff to talk about tonight. And I cannot wait to show you the guests. Put in the comments, if you're able to, who you think the first guest is going to be on tonight, because I cannot wait to get this party started. I've got a couple things to share and a couple things to chat about before we get started. But please take a minute to let people know about this show. They may not realize how supportive this environment is. Guys, we've got William Rochelle, we've got Christy, we've got Yolanda, we've got Kenny, we've got so many great people. David Causey, as usual, front row. So many supportive people are here to watch the show, learn about the guests, and some people are really hurting right now. And if they can be in a supportive community like we have here every Monday night, it might just be what they need. I know last night we had some people sharing about what a rough weekend it was or rough day it was. And we don't want those people to feel like they're alone. Too many of us, no matter what our hustle looks like, no matter if it looks like we're in a great relationship or we have a ton of friends or we have all this going on for us, sometimes we don't know what's going on behind the scenes. And it can be very devastating to many of us that we feel alone because people only see the outside or the pictures that we post. So I want you to give yourself some grace tonight. If you are one of those people, you're struggling, I want you to take care of yourself, whether it is thanking yourself for making it this far, whether it is reminding yourself how beautiful and amazing and wonderful you are. Maybe it is taking care of yourself by going and getting a glass of water. Maybe you need some food in your belly. Maybe you need to get to bed early tonight, or you need to take a nap if it's during the day for you. Think about what you need to do to care about you. because you are important. You are just as valuable as any other human, and I want to see you thrive. Okay. All right. I'm seeing some people put names in the comments on who they think are going to be here. Bobby Lee just showed up. Glad to see you. Damian Kinsey, always love having you. Nick is in the house. Thank you guys for being here. So if you have not noticed, if you do shows like this, if you've been guests on shows, LinkedIn did us dirty last week. Okay. They have removed, I don't know if this is just temporarily for an upgrade or if it's a permanent thing. They have removed in your events calendar the events you have hosted. Now, if you were to go to my profile right now and you clicked on the events instead of like post or photos, you would see ones that I've been a guest on. So some of the ones I've been on with Damian or different people, those show up, but the ones that I've done do not show. So I do want to encourage you, if you're willing, get yourself a YouTube account. If you plan on doing anything in terms of making sure that you maybe do videos or different things like that, store them in other places. I just put my YouTube channel down at the bottom. Make sure you subscribe because there are so many great people that have been guests before that you might want to go back and learn on, because those are gone. Like I said, I don't know if they'll come back. This is something I believe everybody has happened. It's not just a few people, and I'm not sure why. So definitely check that out and make sure people are watching live as much as possible. If you have never watched somebody's live show and this is your first one, first of all, welcome. Glad you're here. You're going to love my guest. But it is important that you realize that there is community that happens in here. There is community in the comment section. There is community by learning who the guests are and following them and making connections, maybe doing a workshop they have, buying a book, learning from them, just realizing that other people have had different things go on. So definitely want to encourage you to do that. And as if you have never hosted your own event and you want to do that, I encourage you to. It's fun, it's exciting, but it can be overwhelming too. So if you do host one and you need some people to kind of fill up the comments, make sure you reach out. Okay. I also want to encourage you to follow Leslie Flowers. Every single Monday morning, she puts out what is called a carousel. It has a ton of different events that are going on, and it's people that she knows personally that have reached out and they have shows. You can find a show almost any time of the day, most days of the week. And if you want to start having your own show and you connect with her, there's a chance you might even get on that carousel, because when you're doing a show, you also learn from the guests, you learn from the people in the comments, and it can be a really, really cool thing. So again, thank you all for showing up. Jocelyn's here. Lots of people that have been on stage are in the comments already, and some people that still have not reached out to be a guest. If you are a living, breathing human that does not want to come on stage to disrespect other human, you are a valuable guest. So reach out to me if you would like to get your voice out there and get to learn a little bit. So have you guessed yet? Have you put your guess on who you think is going to be our first guest? Okay, I am going to bring that guest up in just a couple minutes, but first I want to share about something special this weekend. Did you see my post on Saturday? I got to host two of my amazing friends from LinkedIn. I met them years ago, and one of them I met in person alone and never met her before and stayed at her house for the whole weekend. I mean, it's kind of crazy, but we had done Zoom meetings and stuff, and I'm always safe when I travel and meet new people. But we were just super close right away. And then we brought another girl into the mix, and then we went to her house. We went to Indiana together. They came to me this weekend. So I am so excited. If you do not know who these wonderful humans are, you definitely want to connect with them, follow with them. Sometimes, I don't know if they quite do as much of the posting as I do, because I'm posting all the time, but they're beautiful humans. And it was Amber Norton and Christine Jones. And this was right after they showed up in Michigan. So if you don't know Michigan, I look like the hand and I'm just under the pinky right on Lake Michigan. And this is what Lake Michigan looks like. Isn't that gorgeous? So took them to a couple different beaches. This was Friday night when they were here with me, and we just had a lovely town. And Saturday night, we did so much on Saturday. Amber got to see she was fangirling a little bit. She got to see Bob, who was a guest on my show back when Kevin, who I donated my kidney to, was a guest. So it was super, super exciting. It was cute watching them. And we did the beach. We did a bunch of little local stores. We didn't go into any big box stores. And then we went home, got cleaned up, and we became tourists around my own town. So we were posting with different touristy things. It was just a lovely time. Have you ever hosted somebody in your own town and actually looked at your town a little different? Because that's how I felt. I felt like I know all these cool things in my own town. My town is not that big, but there's so much beauty when you take a minute to appreciate what you have. And that's one of the things that I like to appreciate with learning about new humans and hearing about where they're from and the things they do. So I am ready to bring up our first guest. And if you guessed Jason, you're wrong, because unfortunately it's not raining men tonight. It's only raining man. Jason had an emergency and could not make it. But I did want to post this picture from when he and I met in person. You can't maybe see this far away, but my face is beet red in this picture. He took me up a little hike that ended up being like the side of a mountain, and this girl couldn't handle it. So he's just walking around talking and drinking his little drink and like not even breaking a sweat. And this girl was like, can you push me from behind? Because I'm just not making it up here. So my apologies for those of you that joined the show just to watch Jason, but I guarantee our guest that is going to be on stage is worth sticking around for. I had a delightful conversation with him backstage before we went live, and I could have just talked to him for like hours and hours. And I'm ready to bring him on stage. Are you ready? All right. So if you guessed him, you are the winner tonight. Here comes my friend. Hello. How are you?
Hello. How are you doing?
I'm very good. So you are my first guest that I'm so scared to pronounce your name, because you gave me my tutorial and I told you what happens to my brain when I can't pronounce something the first time. So will you please introduce yourself for us?
I'm Cathal Quinn.
Isn't that so cool? Guys, Ireland. It's Ireland. I'm not fangirling it all over your accent, by the way. I did really good behind stage and not talked about your accent at all, but now I'm just like, okay, now we're live. Now I'm just going to be a little silly.
That's all right. It's Gaelic for Charles or Carlos. So yeah.
Really? Is it a family name too?
I was named after my grandfather's brother, the first name, but not the other side. Yeah.
I love that so much. So if you can see the beautiful skyline behind him, that is Chicago. So I'm under the pinky right now. He's almost a little bit to my bottom corner of my palm there. He is flying around everywhere lately. And so he is thankfully in our time zone, because otherwise it would have been like, what, 3 or 4 o'clock in the middle of the night for you?
Yeah, I think it's 2 a.m. I think it says on my laptop. It would be at home. Yeah.
Okay. But you were willing to do it. When we booked this, we didn't even know you were going to be in Chicago. So I'm so thankful that you're a guest tonight. People are going to love you. I mean, this is your first time on one of these LinkedIn Live events, but you're on stage all the time for your personal stuff. But now people get to know who you are through the Just Jackson Guest Show. So I'm so thankful for you. I want to start out with the normal questions that I ask every guest, so they get to see you a little bit more. And then we're going to let you talk about some of the things that are near and dear to you, that are important, things that maybe the guests will ask questions about. We'll make sure to let you know. But before we get too much into it, your first question, my friend, is, will you share 2 things that you are personally proud of that you have accomplished? So I don't want to hear about family things or something your friend did or something a business partner did. You specifically.
Yeah, I think the 2 things are probably slightly, they're connected. The first is that on the 2nd of January 2008, I had my last bet, my last gamble. I'm a recovering gambling addict. And that's a huge piece that's very important to me. It was my first kind of, how would I say, my first feeling of, or my first introduction to recovery. And I had battled a lot of things, all through my life, I suppose, really trying to fit in, and So that was, that's something I'm extremely proud of, because the day after my last bet, I stood in probably the most beautiful place in the world, in my opinion, which was the Cliffs of Moher in Ireland. And I was ready to end my own life. So I am extremely proud that today I can look in the mirror every day and be proud that I'm alive, very fortunate that I'm alive, and want to be. And I can truly love myself. So and I actually, I was going to, I suppose there's lots of things, right? Thankfully, there's many things. The second thing, I won't, we can talk about it again, because addiction is a theme in my life. But the second thing is, I've worked for the organization that I'm involved with now. I've worked here for 20 years this month. And I got the opportunity with my business partner to buy it 5 years ago, and we did a management buyout. One of the coolest things I've got to do, and also one of the hardest things I've ever done, including battling addiction. So I think they're probably two. I mean, there's a few, but they're two of the main things of that I'm most proud
of. First of all, thank you for still being here. Thank you for still being here. I had no idea you were going to share that. I never try to guess what the guests are going to say that they're the most proud of, but thank you. Thank you for being transparent. We do sometimes talk about various addictions on the show, and I don't know if anybody has actually shared about gambling addiction. And I think so many people don't really understand how devastating that can be when you're talking the intense financial and how it impacts the family and friendships and even business partners so many times. So thank you for being willing to share that. And if you are struggling in the audience or watching this on replay, if you're struggling with an addiction, if you're struggling with behaviors that you're just not sure how to get back in control of, there is so much help out there. You deserve to have safe, supportive people. In America and in Canada, you can dial 988 for any kind of support for any kind of suicidal thoughts. There are different doctors and counselors and support people that want to walk you through some of this. I don't know what kind of services are in Ireland, if you have as much support for things like addiction or gambling or suicide prevention or support over there. But there's people that care, right?
Yeah, there is obviously, you've got the general kind of medical services which bring you to mental health services. There's also some wonderful charities. I'm actually an ambassador. I can get embarrassed sometimes when I say stupid things like that.
Me too.
I'm an ambassador for a charity called Choc Tom, which is the Gaelic for Tom's House, and it's a suicide awareness charity. My wonderful friend Angela Hayes is the founder of it, and it's something that I do a good bit of philanthropy for, and to give back, and it's a wonderful charity. So but there's others. There's one called Pieta House in Ireland, and there's many others across the UK as well that I've been involved with as well. So there's some wonderful charities for both addiction and suicide. And in North America, I actually, if there's anyone who happens to be on from the wonderful island of Oahu, I've done some work with a charity there called Hinamaka, which is a addiction treatment center there. So they do use the medical model, and they're a wonderful charity. And their CEO Brian and the team there had me in recently, actually, and I did some talks with their clients and staff and stuff, and it was really wonderful. So it's something very, very close to my heart.
I love that so much. I'm actually on a few different, not the boards, but I do sit on a few different suicide prevention coalitions. And I used to be a youth mental health first aid trainer, which was suicide prevention for youth. Near and dear to my heart. Way too many people I know that have both completed and have considered. And it's something we need to realize could be going on in the person we love next to us. And we're not in charge of their brains. We're not in charge of their response, but we are in charge of the way that we let people know that we're safe people for them to talk to and find support. So I am so thankful that that beautiful location was a good memory because you survived. Thank you.
Absolutely. I'm delighted I survived, and there was times in my life where I didn't want to be here. So it's a wonderful thing to be proud and be fortunate and just to love love every moment that we have, right? It's so
Well,
important.
I am honored to know you. I just think it's amazing, deeper than I thought we were going to get into in the first 2 minutes of the show, but this is how we roll. I love it. Thank you so much. So,
No
are
problem.
you willing to share one thing you're actually working on for yourself, something you're growing in, something you're learning more about yourself or learning in general?
Yeah. So I I've in the last year and a half, but 18 months ago, I took on a mindset coach, and I've been working very closely with him. I struggled with meditation. With my ADHD, I find it very hard to meditate. I'm okay when I'm guided meditation, but when it's myself, I find it really, really struggle. So he introduced me to breath work, and I've been doing that for about a year and a half. But I'm getting deeper and deeper into that kind of heart coherence piece, and that sort of stuff. And I'm also actually working very closely with a new therapist. I believe every human in the world should be in therapy, by the way. That's just a belief of mine. And when we think we don't need it, it's probably when we need it most to prepare ourselves for what might come next. But I'm working deeply on some childhood trauma at the moment. And it's weird because, we're here and I might be opening up with quite solemn things that people think, but actually, they are the things that make me exactly who I am. They're the things that put a smile on my face, that make me happy that I'm here. So that's something I'm working on deeply.
You
On a more novel basis, I'm working very hard on the. I've got two ears and one mouth because I am a speaker, I am a talker, I'm working very hard on that. But those who work with me and for me would probably tell you I haven't succeeded quite yet. It's a work in progress.
I'm starting to think there's parts of our life that we are so the same person. It's hilarious. I love that. But seriously, you are seriously like what we could call like the poster child for men's awareness, because there are so many men that are not comfortable saying the words therapy, not comfortable saying the words I'm working on myself, I'm learning, I'm dealing with childhood trauma. And oh my gosh, the world would be a safer place if we all talked the way you're talking and we stopped thinking about it as a stigma or that it's a sign of weakness. Because I don't know what you see in your social media or your news blast, but in America, every single time I pick up my phone and go to my Facebook app, because I do that for more of my family and my local stuff. And I don't even know where some of these articles come through, but this man shot his family. This man shot up a school. This kid did this. And it's usually males, males, males. And they aren't doing that because they're bored. They are doing it because they're hurting in some capacity, and they are masking it as I've got to do violence because I can't take care of myself. And the fact that you're saying you're doing it, I love that. I do want to do a disclaimer too. I am a social worker by background, so I am a licensed therapist. I do not do therapy anymore. I do not therapize any friends or anything like that. But when you've heard other people like condemn therapy or say, oh, that's stupid, I don't need therapy, or my therapist sucks, get another one. Get another one. If you don't like McDonald's hamburgers anymore, you're going to go to another restaurant. If you don't like the way your sneakers fit, you're going to start wearing a different brand. Do the same thing with therapy. Sometimes you outgrow a therapist. Sometimes that therapist is not quite comfortable with some of the things you bring up because they thought you were going to just talk about this. And then once you start healing in this area, you start talking about something else. It's okay for them to refer you to somebody else. It doesn't mean that you're bad or that you're not worthy of their time. It just means that they know that they have a limit, just like you should know you have a limit if you don't jive with that person. I work with a lot of kiddos that are like, that lady just sat there, or that therapist, he just kept asking me the same questions. Well, get another one if you don't like it. You're going to find your right one.
Yeah, and I hope you don't mind me chiming in. It's something I'm very passionate about, actually, because if you think about our therapist, right, it's a relationship, and if we meet a man or a woman and we're in a relationship and it might work for a while and then it mightn't work after a while, we have another relationship, and it's the same, and quite often I say to people that often, I remember someone saying to me before, look, you seem like you're doing quite well. Can I have your therapist's number? I was like, oh, no. You need to figure this out for yourself, because you need to go meet a few, and I can I can, whatever. But the best way to do it for me is definitely to meet a couple and figure out who's the right fit for you. I don't want to call it exactly the same as dating, but it's similar concept, right? You've got to meet a couple and figure out what it is. And I think you're really right. It's right now, what I'm working through right now, for me personally, some of the therapists I've worked in the past with on other things wouldn't be right for what I'm doing right now. They wouldn't be able to get into the depth of the elements I'm working on right now. So yeah, no, I would agree. I'm randomly also a trained addiction counselor. I don't practice, but I did go back to study a number of years ago, and thought a bit of career change, and didn't utilize it. And funnily enough, or maybe not so funny, did end up collecting another addiction along the way, because I did cross addict later in life, and that's something that's really important to me, as we get on here.
Well, and I appreciate you saying that, because so many people, so for me, it's food addiction. It is something that I have struggled with food and my weight my whole life. And a lot of people are just like, just lose some weight, just start exercising more, go to the gym, drink more water. And it's like, I've already tried 5 million things of that. And we have our battles the way that our brain decided to have those battles with us. And when we don't make healthy decisions as we're trying to learn new recovery tools, or we try to cope or anything, if they're not safe, our brain is like, yeah, that's not good enough. If you want me to stop doing this, I got to replace it with this, because our brains want to be excited and stimulated all the time. And I appreciate you bringing up, the co-addiction, because it is so normal. It's so normal, whether it is, spending money, whether it's gambling, whether it's sex, whether it's drugs, alcohol, whatever your addiction is, you got to be okay with your brain saying, yeah, I want something else now. And if you don't have the tools or the access, or maybe the money to supply what else it needs to stimulate it in a safe way, it might be easier to fall into one of those traps. So is there any words of wisdom you have for people that do have the or they've seen themselves go from one to the other, just to give them a little hope as well?
Yeah, I think for me, it was many years after that I really fully realized I cross addicted. But I think that, we've got to do the work on ourselves, right? What is addiction? Addiction, I've heard many different ways of saying it, but a lecturer I had many years ago said, think of the Latin terminology, addiction, so the absence of speech and language. So, I would say keep communicating, keep talking. None of us are perfect, and I've had plenty. If I was to really ream them off, I've been addicted to basketball, I've been addicted to the gym, I've been addicted to girls, I've been, if we're not being honest and open with ourselves first and foremost, we will find something to pacify us, right? And we're going to continue to find that, and so I think that's the most important thing. And I think for other people, I think who are with loved ones, or see them, I think sometimes survival can look a lot like success. So you'll look at people and think, wow, they're doing great, but we're not always doing great, and that mask, that's just something that we're holding up. So, it brings me to another one, which is a wonderful one, because when I heard it first at the age of 26, 27, one of the first guys that I did some work with, we talked about many things, but we were talking about relationships and, whether it be gambling, but then also onto women and friendships and relationships and a bit deeper. And he said, look, Carl, intimacy is not what we think it is, right? Intimacy is not necessarily getting between the sheets or having a cuddle or a kiss or whatever. It's allowing someone so close to you that they know everything deep and dark about you, but they're so close that they could absolutely rip your life apart with what they know. And he broke it down into me see instead of intimacy. And it's allowing someone to see inside you so deeply. And it's one that I suppose, the word of wisdom would be, if you can find someone that you trust so much that you allow them in, it doesn't mean that you're going to get, you may not get it straight away, but you get a chance, right? And that you're vulnerable enough, to allow somebody in. It's hard, it's scary, especially if you think most people who end up in addiction are really trying to push down a feeling and emotion that they really don't want to deal with, right? It's too dark, it's too scary. But it's funny when you start talking about it, as long as you're in a safe environment, it doesn't hurt any more than it already did, and sometimes it hurts less.
That's deep. I love you sharing that. No, it's such a good deep, because there are people watching right now, or people that maybe some of the people that are watching may end up talking to other people that they think about this in a different way, and they realize they're not alone. They realize there's a chance that, oh my gosh, this person isn't going to judge me if I tell them my deep, dark stuff. And if they judge me, you know what? At least I got it off my chest. And those aren't the people I want to be around anyway. So what they think about me by judging me doesn't matter anyways, right?
And another, it's funny, people often say to me, I'm full of analogies and words of wisdom and different things, but they're usually not mine. I've learned them along the way, right? But, the same guy that said that to me about intimacy said, look, Carl, at the end of the day, what other people think of you is absolutely none of your business. None of your business. Don't worry about it. Don't think about it. You don't need to. So if you don't like it and it's judgment, then, whatever. It's probably reflecting on them, and hopefully they can find peace one day too, but yeah, you're not required to feed into it.
I love that so much. If you guys are just joining, oh my gosh, he has went in every direction that I crave people to think about, because we tend to think, oh my gosh, look, he's a CEO. Look, he's done all of this. Look at this. Look at this. Guess what? He has some life stuff. And if we just think that person is a shiny, oh, they got everything perfect, that person has something so great, we tend to judge ourselves, and we start to compare ourselves, or we're like, oh, we're not as good, and I've done this and I can't share it. And then what happens, instead of us healing from it, we end up doing worse, and we end up self-medicating, or we go to a different addiction, or we start harming ourselves or other people. And there's better opportunities out there, and we do have to learn our own way. But when we know there's support people out there and that people actually care about us, it makes it better. So I want us to jump to your last question, because there are some questions in the comments I want you to touch on if you're comfortable with. But my last thing, to kind of give us a little breather. Now, this is such a bad question for you because you're traveling nonstop. But if you could travel just for pleasure, you don't have to worry about carrying the business and doing the CEO stuff, or doing these talks that are very intense, that I can only imagine are amazing but exhausting at the same time. Where would you travel right now just to relax and have fun?
I'd definitely go somewhere I've never been, because I like the excitement of something different. I've always wanted to go to Fiji. I've never been in that part of the world. I've done a lot of Europe. I've done a bit of the Middle East, and I'm not quite as like you, that I've done all the states, but I'm not from here. So I've done 23 states in the US.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And I do love the US, but the Fiji is definitely somewhere I would really like to see and travel to. I've met Fijian people over the years. Yeah, I just like to look at that culture, and I just love to see, and being a small area and stuff. I just love to experience it.
That's so cool. Have you ever been to Michigan? Is that one of your 23 states or not?
It is. Yeah, I've been in Michigan. So I've been. This is my second time stopping in the city of Chicago. I was here last November to see Ireland play New Zealand. Ireland get absolutely battered by New Zealand in rugby. But this was actually my 19th visit to the airport of Chicago. So I've traveled through the hub of Chicago Airport, O'Hare Airport many times, but it's only my second time actually coming out of the airport.
And actually getting to see Chicago and getting to see that beautiful lake behind you. I love that.
Yeah, well, it's beautiful. Next, and dark. Now all I can see is the reflection of ourselves.
I know, right? Because it's like the sun is going down here for sure. But next time you come to Chicago, give me some notice, because I can hop down to Chicago in a minute if I don't have anything scheduled. But it's cool stuff. So do you want to take the stage for a minute and talk about some things that you wanted, or do you want me to go right to the questions that are in the audience? It's up to you.
Yeah, do you know what? I think I said to you at the top, I enjoy open forum, and I'm a fairly open book. If there's something I'm not overly comfortable sharing or talking about, I'll just say, yeah, maybe I'm not in a place to talk about that. But I'll be interested to see if anybody can stump me.
I love that. Challenge on, right? Okay, so Jocelyn said, do you think that the pattern spills into other areas? How have you refocused when you took notice? Does that make sense to you?
I think so. I am an absolute all or nothing character. I have lived most of my life in extreme highs, extreme lows. So if that's what you mean, it's bills over pretty much every day. Um, what I mean by that though is that I'll get lost in a task. I'll get and if I like something, I'm all in. If I don't like it, I find a way to delegate it or get the hell out of there. Excuse me, as quickly as I can. I'm used to talking on live stages, so I get away with swearing a bit more. So I'll try
It's
not to. I'll be careful. But don't want to get our profiles taken down off LinkedIn. I kind of need it. So yeah, I hope that answers the question. What was the second half of the question?
how do you refocus if you see it?
Yeah, I think now I've got a lot better at that in the last few years. I mentioned other addictions, so alcohol became a huge coping mechanism for me. It had been for a long time, but especially after I bought the business. And I'm free from alcohol 3 years and 3 months. And I think since I gave up alcohol and weirdly caffeine at the same time, I I'm a lot better at noticing. I don't have that same level of brain fog, so I'm a lot better at noticing when I am, and I refocus. I think I said to you, Jackie, if I was doing this interview 4 or 5 years ago, I probably would have been down in a hotel bar having a glass of wine before we came on. I probably wouldn't have been on it, to be honest, in the first place, because of the way I would have represented myself in the world. I was still strong in how I represented, but it was definitely a mask. But today, before I came on, I did a quick breath work. And that's usually, I do small, really, really quick, like a 2-3 minute breath work after like a stressful phone call, or if I found I got lost in a task or something like that. So I hope that answers Jocelyn's question.
I think that was amazing, and I appreciate that. This one is from Nick, and she asked, do you think there's some signs we can pay attention to help figure out if somebody may have a gambling problem?
Yeah. Look, I think there's obvious ones. I mean, gambling addiction in some ways is really no different to any other addiction, but then is unbelievably different. So, I mean, the similarities is obviously, yes, there's likely going to be, lies, because, compulsive gamblers and addicts are usually extremely good compulsive liars. And so that sort of stuff. Yeah, there will be patterns with money, going missing maybe from friends or out of accounts and stuff like that. I think that most people in active addiction cannot stay in one place unless it's feeding their addiction. So, you're always in a hurry somewhere else, you're moving somewhere else. So, I think the interesting thing about addiction, right, is that not any two addicts' patterns are identical. They're really not, and I don't mean that to sound like bad news if someone is trying to figure out somebody else, but, I think that, it's like, and one of the hard things about gambling, okay, if we're a drunk, or if we're, a heroin addict, or, a crack addict or something like that, you'll see signs, there'll be signs in the body, maybe, marks, or, in our teeth or our gums, or whatever it is. The scary thing about gambling is it's so insidious, right? It's so, and similar to food disorders in a way. I was in therapy with numerous ladies who were bulimic, and it's very hard to spot the signs, you know what I mean? Because we as addicts, and especially as process addicts, right? Because we're not drunk, we're not off our head. We are, right? By the way, we are we are out of our heads with our own drug, but we can come across so convincing. And it's kind of really scary, I think, but I do think, like anything, patterns of, especially if someone was typically reliable and suddenly they're not, right? Typically had, the ability to have money, and then suddenly doesn't, things like that. But I think if you know someone truly, whether it's gambling, whether it's alcohol, whether it's drugs, whether it's another mental health issue, you will notice a distance. You will notice them putting a void between you and them. And there's quite a lot of time something going on. And I think we can say the same thing for just even small issues. Like, if I don't know, if I've had something go on this morning and I go into a meeting, right? People who truly know you can have one look at you and go, going to have a word with him afterwards. There's definitely something to miss here, and there's a couple of people that, a couple of them will be up because they're in the US, but a couple of people that are very close to me will know exactly what I mean. And they'll go, yeah, I know that look in his face. I know that, when a smile drops or whatever it might be, right? Or it might be the opposite. It might be that big fake smile that someone puts on, right? They're cues, but they'll be individual to the person as well. Hope that answers.
Oh, I love that answer, because some of us grew up with like, this is a picture of somebody that's a drug addict. It's not always like that. Like you said, there are some signs that you can see on the body, and sometimes there's not. And sometimes losing weight could be a sign of drug addiction, but for other people, it could be gaining weight. There are different things. I used to say, with addiction, a lot of times it could be like times that aren't accounted for. They're gone for a long time. But with gambling addiction, they can do it right on their phone now. It's not something you have to physically go to a betting facility, or in America, we call them casinos a lot of times. You can do a lot of that through a bookie. You can do it with a phone call or two. Some people will give their people money with, hey, anything over this, you got to check with me. Otherwise, just do it. And that you don't have to disappear to do that. I mean, that's just part of your day. And so, just be aware. Also, I would like to add into sometimes that distraction and that defensiveness when you ask a simple question like, hey, where were you today? Or, hey, I don't remember losing $3,000 out of the bank account. What the heck's going on? If they become defensive and like turn it towards you or something like that, there could be something they're using that money towards, and they're trying to make you, like the gaslighting, try to make you think about it's your problem. You forgot what you paid or something, to take the spotlight off of that. So there are definitely some warning signs, but yet everybody's different. And, some people may have different accounts. They may have different ways that they look at things. So, and I don't want people to think every single human has nonstop addiction or they have something that's really hurting them, but being able to talk about things that are icky may make or break whether they're going to share with you and let you know how it really was for them. So David asks, what do you consider a definition of the word addiction? Is that something you want to tackle? Because that's a tough one.
Definition. I think, when we think of addiction, I think about it, right? It's when it's something that consumes your every thought, your every waking moment. For me, especially when I was in active gambling addiction, it didn't matter what else I was doing. It was to get that done so I could go and gamble. So it literally went, for me anyway, the definition for me is when it is the only thing that matters. Simply that it is actually the absolute love of your life. And no other man, woman, child, object, work, anything will get in the way of that joy that you believe you're getting. But, you're not getting joy. You're creating nothing but pain for yourself, and likely, if not straight away, in time, everybody else around you that loves you or cares about you.
Oh, that's huge. I think that's a perfect definition, without a doubt. Sometimes when you try to stop having an addiction, you will go through withdrawal. You will go through some different types of detox. Are you willing to share a little bit on what supports helped you through some of the, you talked about being over 3 years now without alcohol. That is no joke. When your body becomes dependent on a chemical, it's no joke. And when you're all consumed, when that gambling addiction was strong for you, it's no joke just saying, okay, I'm just not going to think about it today. Do you feel comfortable sharing like what some of the initial things were that made you successful with those?
Yeah, I think, and I think again, it's individual, right? I think for me, it was interesting enough with both of my, addictions per se, right? Those two that I spoke about and that are kind of the most kind of prominent, like people would say I'm addicted to work and, lots of other things, right? But they're the two that were most damaging in my life. Once I made the decision and made the plan that it was what I was going to do. And like the first one was I got in, I was in a psychiatric hospital for a week, and then I went to an addiction treatment center, right? So I was in a bubble, right? And so when I came out in that bubble, I had no urge and no want or need to gamble, because for me, I was searching for belonging. I was searching for somewhere to feel safe and secure. And I had now found another way. Um, when it came to the alcohol piece, yet again, like, I drank heavily, but I was a very functional alcoholic.
Mhm.
I managed to buy a business, and continue building that business. And look, in business as well, right? So in my industry, there's a lot of social elements, right? There's a huge amount of client entertainment. There's a huge amount of going out. So you could have 6, 8 glasses of red wine with a client, and it's just seen as work, right? And then I would say goodbye to that client, and I would go to another bar and smoke a cigar and have a bottle of red wine or maybe two on my own. Um, but then I could go home at the weekend, to my ex-wife, and I'm going through a divorce at the moment, but to my ex and children, and I could go home to that scenario and not drink at the weekend, because I conditioned myself to only need it when I really needed it, and I knew it was around the corner. I was so ridiculously functional, so for me, I didn't have any over withdrawal symptoms per se, but I'll tell you my big problem was I always had to have something to fill the void.
Mhm.
So it might have become the gym, it might have become running, it might have become relationships, it might have become work. I always had to have something. And even till today, I still have numerous things that fill my cup, right? But I like to think that I'm filling them in a healthier way. Am I perfect? Absolutely not. Do I mess up all the time? Probably every day. Is there people that, as I said, what other people think of me is none of my business. Is there people that think that, who does he think he is? He's this or he's that? Yeah, there is. I know there is, but I don't give a monkeys. I can look at myself in the mirror and go, you know what? I'm doing my best. And hey, there's no dress rehearsal for this thing called life, right? I could get a phone call in a minute that absolutely pushes me. And now I've got to dig deep and get into my toolkit and pull out some tools. And I've got, like you, I've got multiple tattoos, but I've got one on my arm from when I, stopped gambling. And it's one of the ones from the addiction rooms, and it's just for today. So just for today, I will not gamble. Just for today, I will not drink. And I am, if you gave up drinking or gambling or another addiction 24 hours ago, right? I'm as close to my next one as you are. So I am no different. We are the exact same. So I've got to be as mindful and as cautious of my own behaviors. And that is the big thing for me. So that if it was to say there was a withdrawal, it was, I found things. So first it was recovery, and it was the meeting rooms, and it was this, and then it was running, and it was the gym, and it was relationships, and it was so for me, that's been the big thing. But again, as I said earlier, it's very individual. We're all chemically. I hung out with two guys last week, who I know through my industry, and they're twins, right? And they look pretty much the same, right? And they have similar accents and they talk very similarly, but they're very unique in their own little ways, right? And they're dealing with different things, and that's the thing. None of us, so none of us will take in that chemical or anything, and that chemical hitting the chemicals within our brain, will be different. So how we react and how we then come away from that and come off that will be different. I hope that makes sense.
Oh, it makes so much sense. And it's so spot on. And I think a lot of people, especially if they are using around certain people, especially if they're younger or when they're first getting into things, and it's like, oh, you know what? I can handle my alcohol, or oh, they get sloppy drunk and I don't. Look how good I am, or oh, he gets violent when he drinks. I don't do that. So we think that it's okay to keep going and to keep going because we're thinking what our stuff is going on is better than what somebody else's does, or we're not really going to become addicted because, I don't get angry when I get drunk or this or that. And I love that you acknowledge that even twins can respond differently to different things. It's huge. So Christy wonders what you do to enjoy time and stay refocused. What kind of things do you like to do for fun?
Yeah. So I I have started to learn in the last 4 years. I'm still learning to play golf, and I've enjoyed it. It's the first sport that I've ever allowed myself to play that I am absolutely terrible at, and I don't care. I just enjoy it, right? I enjoy the piece. I enjoy being out there, whether it's with clients and we're talking a bit of business, or we're well done. I just saw someone say they're celebrating 6 years sober, so that's super. I didn't catch it at all. That's
It's
super good
Nick.
for me.
Nick, yeah.
Yeah, well done. Absolutely incredible, and thank you for sharing. Yeah, so golf. But I'm really, really enjoying the journey into trying many different things like sound baths, meditation, yoga, Pilates. Because I used to find myself in gym and running. I train a little bit in the gym now, but not as much as I used to. I was diagnosed with a thing called degenerative disc disease about 2 years ago.
Okay.
Arthritis of the lower spine. So I can't have that heel strike. So again, I had to grieve running, and then I had to find some peace in something else. But the most beautiful thing for me is like-minded humans, right? Take everything else. I have to do the work on myself, and I have to go into that quiet space, and that's probably my biggest struggle. So I challenge myself to do that more and more. But I absolutely love human company, and good like-minded human beings who, are willing to be honest and open. And I think, to me, that's one of the big things, is actually that honesty piece, right? It's such a gift, because if someone is honest with you, the likelihood is you're going to open up and be more honest with them. And if you surround yourself with people like that, it can just be a healthy. And I don't mean we're all sitting around, telling each other our deepest, darkest, and singing "Kumbaya, my lord" all day, right? Sometimes it's just, just the lightest little things, but just being open and being honest with each other, right? And there's moments in my life, and plenty of them, that I wasn't, right, and I wasn't honest with myself first and foremost before anybody else, but yeah, being around people, trying new things, seeing new places, and a lot of people think that, all I do is work. I absolutely love when I'm in a new city and I can just go for a ramble and leave the phone in the room for an hour and just go for a walk and just soak it up, right? It's usually blown up by the time I get back, but it doesn't really matter. 10 problems or 100 problems, can still only deal with one at a time anyway. So.
Oh my gosh, I love that so much. I think it's so cool how you kind of your whole face lit up when you were talking about stuff you like to do too. And that's something I don't think any of us as humans really realize, is that our brains, our minds want us to be happy. They want us to be smiling and laughing and doing all the things. And that gives us internal chemicals that go off that don't happen when we're angry and stressed and overworked and everything. And when we do that, it opens up different pathways in our brain to either start healing, start learning, start relaxing, just start liking ourselves a little bit more. So my challenge for everybody watching the show or watching the replay is to think of something that makes you happy, that doesn't hurt another soul, something that is just going to make you smile once in a while, and see how you can add more of that to your life. And if you can't think of anything, because there are some people that are saying, my life is so bad, nothing makes me happy right now, there's just nothing. I want you to take a minute and I want you to think about when you were a kid. Was there a sport you liked to play? Was there a game you liked to do? Was there, things like solitaire, playing with real deck of cards, not something online on your phone or something. Is there an animal that you used to like to see somewhere? Is that something you can look up pictures of or go visit? It doesn't have to be expensive to get our brain to think that we're happy again. And just even if we're kind of faking it a little bit till we make it, your brain's going to be happier. And when you're happier, oh my gosh, the world just has a little bit more hope. A little bit more hope. So, such a great night with you. I've learned so much. I have learned so much from you. I know people in the audience who are not, they never know exactly what's going to come from our guests. And tonight was so not supposed to happen. We were supposed to only have you for half the show. We were supposed to have Jason with us. And sometimes things happen for a reason. And I am thankful we didn't have to rush you, because the time flies. I know people are just really thankful that you were willing to share what you did, because it's tough. It's tough. So we are almost done with time. I want you to give a minute to talk about some leadership if you're okay with that. And then we can end on a positive note. Make sure you're connecting with him. Make sure that you go back and watch the replay because lots of you said, oh, I'm chiming in later. You missed a good one. You missed some real, intense reality talk. So I'm going to turn it over to you to talk about some leadership stuff. Okay.
Yeah, so I suppose first, I had planned to talk. I actually hadn't planned to talk about my addictions and that to that level at all tonight. But I think, it was great, and I think when people are asking questions, I think it's so important to be open about these things, right? And so, look, from a leadership perspective, I think a lot of the things we were talking about there, the openness, the communication, the collaboration, it's so important because when we're looking at business and when we're looking at anything, whether it's team, sports environment, military, I'll talk about high performance environments. So my industry is the critical infrastructure data center sector. I compare that to military and high performance sports all the time. And really, what are they? They're human systems. And all of us are in a human system all the time, right? So what is a human system? To me, a human system is where it's not just me on my own, because I might behave or do something in a certain way. But when anything I do, when any action in business or in work is going to impact somebody else in the team or in the clientele, then we have to look at what that looks like and what will happen with that. For me, one of the biggest pieces is, if people will often say, well, how do you react if someone does something wrong or whatever? It's like, one of the things I've been challenging myself on big time over the last couple of years is, right, if they've done something that we're unhappy with, let's have a little look at the system first and see what's going on. Is there a pattern? If it's happened 2 or 3 times, yeah, we could say, is that person ignorant? Are they rude? Are they whatever? Or is it, but actually, is there something in the environment that we're in that system, that actually is creating that repetitive piece? And maybe it's happening with multiple people. And then maybe it is the process or the system that needs to evolve and change, not just the person. I'm not saying that's a good excuse, right? By the way, if there's someone that keeps doing the same thing over and over again, but it just forces us to look a little bit differently. I think first and foremost, and we've literally talked about it there all evening, right? We are all human first, right? So we got to meet people where they're at. That doesn't mean a license to get away with something. Go, oh, you see it today in this modern day. You'll often hear people say, oh yeah, I'm having a mental health issue. Maybe they're just a little bit hungover and stressed, right? And they're having a mental health issue because it's easier than having to deal with the challenges in front of us. But I think creating that supportive environment for maybe, as somebody asked earlier, right, to allow someone to come forward and actually say, instead of you having to figure out where they are, that they'll actually tell you if we're open and honest with each other. I think as well, another thing I didn't talk about today, but similar, is burnout, right? So it came hand in hand with addiction for me towards the end with the gambling. And I think looking at that in leadership is so important, right? We want people to drive hard. We want people to succeed. I mean, you look at America, right? It is the land of opportunity. And, people, like if you're working for a big organization, sometimes the annual leave PTO, as you call it, annual leave as we call it, may not be huge, right? But how are we creating support for those people to actually come away and recover for a moment? Because think about it, right? You do repetitions in the gym, you go for a run, whatever it might be. You're not going for the next one straight away. You stop, you breathe, you refuel, your body. So we have to allow ourselves to do that in business and just come away. And I've really enjoyed the last number of years. Like I've been working in some sort of job since I was about 12 years of age, right? So 33 years. But I've been in business for 20 something years. And it's only really in the last 3 years that I allowed myself to stop and go, okay, what's actually working? What's not working? And how do I look at that? And then how do I help others look at that too? And I think you have to zoom out. I'll always say you have to zoom out to zoom in. You have to zoom out away from it. Sorry. And so look, I could talk about business management, leadership, human systems really is what it's all about for me, right? And supporting humans to do their best work. Because most people, right, most of us, even if it's bad things, right, we want to be the best at what we do. We want to do really well at it. And some people who want an easy life, actually, that we're creating our lives, we're actually making our lives harder by trying to avoid the hard things, So yeah, so I hope that I know we're hitting the end, so I don't want to keep going on about it, but I suppose addiction doesn't define me, leadership doesn't define me, there's nothing that does, apart from my own happiness is all I have, right, and my own peace is all I have, and hell or high water, I'm not letting anyone take that away from me now.
That is a perfect way to end the show, my friend. Oh my gosh, you were amazing. Thank you. Thank you for giving us yourself tonight. I mean, this is powerful stuff. If you're comfortable staying on for a few minutes, I'm going to say goodbye to everybody and then play the goodbye. But if you can wait for a few minutes after the music's over, I'd like to just touch base with you for a minute.
Could you say, sorry, before we finish, is that okay? Look, I am on LinkedIn. I'm not wonderful on Facebook and all the other elements. I will be shortly, because I have my own business, but I'm launching my own brand as well, CathalQuinn.com. And I plan to, I do more and more speaking elements in different environments, in recovery and stuff like that as well, and in business. So keep an eye, keep a space. And also, if there's anyone that is struggling, because I know we touched, I like to do a spoiler alert, or not spoiler alert, but what's the word? I can't even think of it. We've touched on some topics, right, that are difficult. So if there is anyone that's struggling, I'm not saying I have all the answers for you, but I could definitely direct you in different ways or help you see supports. My LinkedIn messaging is always open for that stuff. So sorry, it's your show. I'm going to leave you alone and let you go.
No, that's perfect. Because I was going to say, is there one last thing you want to share with everybody? But you just did that. So we're going to end there. Follow him, connect with him. And then when you have some more of your business stuff out, we want to go back and we want to highlight you. I want to support you as much as I can. Okay. I'll see you behind the screen in just a minute. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, folks. Take care.
Oh my gosh. So amazing. Guys, people are amazing humans. We get the people that are struggling. We get the people that are not very nice. We get the people that are stressed and angry in our life all the time. And then you see a different side of them, or you get to see a great human that cares enough to share some of their deepest, darkest things so that you don't have to hurt. So you don't have to think that you're the only one going through something like this. If you are struggling, if it was a deep topic for you, he shared that he's available if you need to reach out to somebody. Remember, if you're in the United States or Canada, 988 is always available 24 hours a day for you. You deserve to find that hope, that happiness we were talking about. Remember what he just said. Happiness is an inside thing. Nobody should take that from you. I don't care what you've heard as a kiddo, what you've heard from maybe your spouse or your boss. You deserve to be happy and healthy just like every other human. So we're going to close out the show. I am booking into October. I want you on stage. You deserve to have your voice out there. There's somebody in the comments that's going to be on stage next week, and he tends to show up late, so he best be on time next week, or he's not going to get his full time either. Guys, take care of yourself, and we will see you every single Monday, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Just Jackson Guest. Thank you so much. Bye. We are out.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us today. You could have been anywhere else, but you chose Just Jacks and Guests. Jackie Hallberg has left the building. The category is prison reform. Prison reform. The category is diversity. The category is women's rights. Thank you for joining. We appreciate your company. Thank you for coming through. Just Jacks and Guests. The category is equal rights. The category is inclusivity. The category is second chances. Thank you for coming through. We appreciate your company. Yes! Thank you for joining us today.